Welcome to the Political Ferret Show. New content will be uploaded every Wednesday and Sunday, and if you like this kind of content, consider becoming a Patreon and help with just $1 a month to make the change possible. Today we're gonna talk about Max Stirner, with real name Johann Caspar Schmidt. He was a result of revolutions. He was friends with Engels, he was friends with Marx, and they liked him in the beginning but not in the end. The thing is, and this is the interesting thing, the same environment that produced Marx and Engels with their philosophy produced also Max Stirner. And one of his famous books is Der Einzige und sein Eigentum, in English Ego and Its Own, which is a not really good translation. The better translation would be The Only One and His Property, which is more accurate. The thing is, when he pushed out these books, I think Marx and Engels produced an answer to that was twice as long as his book. They really hated it. And the conclusion he came to, and he was, in the end, while Marx and Engels and so on were very into this zeitgeist of revolutions, so yeah, we need more revolutions, and they had a revolution every Wednesday, he said, I'm not only against your revolution, I'm also against a revolution that comes after your revolution. And this is quite interesting. He was revolutionary in being against revolutions, and he was, in the same moment, he was not on the side of the system that was already in place. Therefore, he was certainly no conservative, not by a stretch. He was, in a sense, way more radical than Marx and Engels together. But today, people understand him as kind of conservative, which is rather strange. But let's dive into that, shall we? So if we observe groups, let's say we have here two more or less identical, I would say quote-unquote, groups. But the one group is not really a group. When you ask them what they are, they say, I'm a person, I'm a person, I'm a person too. And they have no group identity. On the other hand, you have a group with group identity that comes forth and says with one voice, we are the Borg, or something like that. And often you have a hierarchy and you have a spokesman or something like that. But even though if you have a group that is absolutely into finding consensus and doing everything together and being democratic, you have a group, and this group speaks in more or less one voice. The interesting thing is, and this is more or less the modern approach to the whole thing, is that you say when you have a group, the group becomes bigger than its own parts. They create a bigger cause. And this bigger cause will create a better world or a better situation or something like that. On the other hand, if you have just a bunch of individuals, they do not do that. So in translation, if you have the same amount of people, but one of them are defined themselves as a group and are accepted as this group, they should have more rights than people who are just a bunch of individuals. This is something that a lot of people say today. This is the thing with group identities. But the problem is, when you have now a group and they are all committed officially to the same cause, you might have someone who does not really work completely in... He might see some things differently, let's say it that way. But what does these people do often? They see that they are different and they just shut up. And this, you can observe this in every group. When you are in a club, if you are in something like that, or in a party, you have exactly that. A lot of people say something, and there is this one guy who just shuts his eyes and does not say anything anymore, because he says that it makes no sense. And this is one thing that a bigger cause often takes from you, and it says it's sometimes necessary that you shut up because the group rules over you. So the question is now, does this do a little harm but in the end a lot of good, or is it kind of balanced, or does it a lot of harm and very little good? First, we have the collectivists, of course, who say, yes, it does a little bit harm, you have to force people to do something that they do not want in the first place, but on the long run, it is a good thing. Then you have the minarchists and centrists and so on, who say, well, it's kind of balanced and we have to recognize that it is kind of in a balance. You have to force sometimes some people to do something that they do not want, but on the long run it is good for them, but you should not do it all day long. it is enough if you have to do it every 10th of the time. And then you have, of course, people like Stirner who say, well, to force people is always a bad thing, and the little bit good that comes out of it is not worth it. And this is his position. And so they are on opposite sides, Marx and Stirner, from the point of, is a group a good thing or not? So if we now talk about groups, we can just put a lot of people in the same room and say, okay, you are now a group. You are the group who sits in room 125, and suddenly you're a group. So you can now look left and right and see, okay, these people are all humans. So compared to stones, we are all absolutely the same. But if we do not compare ourselves to stones, but we compare ourselves just as individuals, we will find out that there is one thing for certain true. There is only one me, and the rest are others. One me, the rest are others. This is something that pretty much nobody disputes nowadays. There are some weirdos out there to do, but most of the people will agree that there is one person that is you, and then there are other people who are not you. But if we go beyond that, we can say on the surface, compared to a stone, we are all human beings, we are all the same. But if we take a little bit a closer look, like comparing our fingerprints. If we compare our fingerprints, we see that we are not the same, we are quite different, and we wear different clothes, and we have different hairs, and so on and so on. So both ideas are right, that we are absolutely the same and that we are completely different. You can come to both of these conclusions, and both conclusions are on the surface right. That's the interesting thing. So, but we will not talk about that today. We will talk about the mind and what we think, and not how we look and what hair color we have and some things. Important here is still to understand that there are me and the others. This is quite important. But the thing is, you can look into your mind more or less and can find out what you want. More or less that is, of course, but you can understand pretty much what are your desires, what are your values, and so on. The problem is, and this is hard enough from time to time, but if you want to look into the head of other people, it becomes a little bit harder. I mean, can you do that? And this is the big question. Some people say yes, some people say no. I say maybe, but I'm closer to, I would say no. So there are different approaches to analyze, to find out what others believe, because Stirner in the end says that it is impossible to find out what others believe, but there are some people who say, oh, it's quite easy to find that out. So and this is the approach that most of the people have. They say, okay, we have different sets of values, we have different set of ideas, different sets of goals, different things of what we think life should be, and so on. But there are people around who are like-minded. There are some people around who want the same thing like I want, and then there are people who want completely different things, and then there are people who like completely different things, and other people who like completely different things, but they want the same thing in the end. So there are people who are like-minded. And this is what they really, really want. So people who adopted this point of view say, okay, we are different. How can we deal with our difference? Can we live together, especially if the one group wants to kill the other group, for example? Can they live peacefully together? Yes or no? This is an interesting question, but not for this video. But then there is the point of view, let's say, from the fanatic. A fanatic has thoughts in his head, and he knows that this is the only truth around. And he looks around himself and sees that there are different people with different ideas. But he knows for a fact that these things are wrong. This is just clouds over the one real truth. And when he goes and confronts people with words or a baseball bat or a machine gun, he can make this fog go away, and everybody will find out that he is absolutely on the same page, because there is only one truth. And those are the people who say on this channel over and over and over again, ha! I found out that you did not read Marx, or I found out that you did not read the Quran, because if you would have read my holy book, then you would be absolutely on my page and would see that this is the only truth. These people cannot understand that when I observe something that they deem real, good and true, that I can come to a complete different conclusion, because in their mind it is just this one truth that is in the head of everybody, and it is just clouded by lies or propaganda or something like that. And this is the view of the fundamentalist, of the fanatic, of the extremist. And it does not matter what we're talking about. There are people who say, oh, but everybody loves cats and hates dogs, or everybody believes in my God, or everybody will be happy in communism, or something like that. People think that there is only one truth and everything else is just clouded judgment. And this is, I would say, absolutely wrong, but a lot of people think that. Then on the complete different scale, on the complete different extreme, we have the idea that there is no truth at all. You have sets and values, but you have absolutely no idea what other people think. So therefore, since you do not know if your set of truth is real and right, you do not know if it is true and real and right. So it makes no sense to think about it, and there we are pretty close to nihilism, to say, meh, I do not care, there is no truth, there is nothing, there is no reality, and everything is just there. Yeah, well, this is nihilism, and Stirner is quite close to that, to say, okay, there is no truth in the end, and it makes no sense to fight for a truth because there is no truth, because you cannot find out what other people think and you can't compare yourself. So the problem is that people want order. I know, the anarchists on my channel will not like to hear that, but a lot of people, not you, but a lot of people like order. And a lot of people like a lot of order, and this is quite a problem, because some people do not like an order but others do. So what can we do? These people who want order want to create some order, and those people who do not want order want to deconstruct the order. So we are somewhere in a balance between order and absolutely chaos, which is unnerving for everybody, but this is the world as it is. So what people in the past did to sort it out, to say, okay, we have an order system, this order system stinks, because the old order system from 200 years ago was pretty much, there is a king, the king had an army, and whoever he could oppress was his people. And they did speak different languages, had different faiths, and this was not really a good solution. So what people came up with was, okay, we put the people who belong together, so we have peoples. And what does this mean? Well, in the end it meant languages. It said, okay, the people who speak French, they are in a land where there are only French people, and those people who speak German should all go in a land that speak German. And this is pretty much our nationalism. This was quite a revolutionary idea back then in the French Revolution. Nowadays it's not so new anymore, but back then the idea was quite new and it did work more or less. The thing is that people who just speak the same language, it does not necessarily mean that they have the same culture, but this is then a problem. On the other hand, you can say, and this is pretty much my approach, we go away from this order of the languages and we make an order of the mind. We say, okay, there are like-minded people, so the like-minded people should go together. All the capitalists in one land, all the socialists in one land, all the, I don't know, Tibetans in one land, and so on and so on. Everybody who has the same idea how he wants to live, in no regards in how they look like. I mean, I do not care what color of your hair or skin or whatever you have. I care just about what set of rules you want to follow. But there are other people who say, but we want only people with the same skin color in our land. Yeah, it's okay too. When you all agree to the same thing, I have no problem with that. Do it. An order of the mind means that people who are like-minded come together in the same place. This is something that I would like, but is certainly nothing that Stirner would like. Because, in a sense, the problem with an order of the mind is that you might have a group, and in the mind you have one guy who has a red idea and two who have blue ideas, whatever that means. And the red idea guy says a red thing, and then one of the blue-minded guys says a red thing and the other says what really is on his mind, it's on the blue mind. And since the guy who has in fact a blue mind thinks that the red idea is the real one, and he knows that groups need sacrifice, so he has to suppress himself so that he says what he says there. He will then try to suppress others and, well, let's say convince them to say also the red thing. This could lead to a situation that a whole group says something that is not really on their minds. And you can also observe this in a lot of groups where when you ask them, they will say strange things, and when you talk with them face to face and under four eyes, they will see completely different things, because it's not really there is a discrepancy between what they believe and what they say, and we see this also very strong in SJW culture right now. So the interesting thing is that those people who are not really in accordance with what they think and what they say, those people have a tendency to suppress others because of overcompensation. And this is a real problem, and this is the big problem on an order based on the mind. So the thing is, when you are now in a group, and in a group that consists of others, you have a certain circle of influence, because you influence people by what you're doing, what you're saying, and so on. And that's not the real problem. The problem is that you also have power, naturally. And this power might be a problem, because you can force people to do something that they do not really want to do. And often you do not do that by being evil and running around and forcing people to do something and coerce them around. No, it's often you do that by pushing an agenda, pushing an idea, wanting to do good. Let's say you go to a friend and say, oh, we collect for this poor family over there, and he says, yeah, but I do not want to do that, and say, but you have to do that, because otherwise I go to your friends and say how evil you are. And you're into that. Because you wanted to push something that you considered good, you created a power structure that is not really good. The interesting thing here right now is that Stirner points out that influence is irrelevant, because you have absolutely no idea if you influence anyone. This might be all an illusion, and you do not know if other people even think, because they could be a complete illusion. Everything that matters is you, and if everything that matters is you, using power is quite stupid. So if you get rid of that and say, okay, there is no higher cause, there is only my cause, but no higher cause, then it makes no sense to use force in any way or form. And that's quite interesting. This is something where the anarcho-capitalists cheer normally when I point out something like that. So the thing is, when a group now that is not you're not part of this group, and this group says, but we are the whatevers, and we fight for a better world, and our case, our goal, our thing is bigger than we all. Stirner points out that whenever you say, yes, but my case, I am bigger, you're right. You are always more important than the biggest group think and group rights and group whatsoever. You are always more important for yourself, and your things are should be more important than anything around you. It's just you, and you alone. You are in the center. You are in the center of the universe, and everything around you is not so important. So what you have to do is to improve yourself. You should not try to improve the world. And the thing is, when you do that, and you might be one of them who uses force to force other people to do something that you think they should do that is not really according to your own sets of values, because nobody really wants to force somebody, I guess. If you drop pretty much this power and start to say what you think, the world automatically becomes a better place, because everybody then can say whatever he thinks. And that's interesting, because this is a complete break with every revolutionary idea that was around that time that worked pretty much like this. You as a person had to influence the world to make the world a better place. And Stirner pointed out that this is nonsense. What you have to do is you have to improve yourself, and this will improve the earth, the environment and everything around you. And that's the important thing, to really do that, to really grow. The first thing you have to accept is that you are alone. You are absolutely and completely alone. Imagine that there is nobody around you, that everybody around you, they're just NPCs. They're not really human beings. You do not know, even those people that you love, you do not know if they exist or not. They might be just an illusion. It might be just a joke. And if you grow because you want to grow, not because you want to make the world a better place, but you grow and improve yourself because you understand that only you are important, then you can make the world a better place, and you stop messing around with other people's and with their wish to improve themselves and improve, therefore, the world. I think Max Stirner is very interesting. He is absolutely radical, and I have a hard time to deal with his nihilism because I'm not a nihilist. I do not think that there are no causes and no goals and no futures, and for instance, I think that there is a cause. I think that human beings are on this planet to create a situation in which life can go away from Earth and can fertilize the whole universe. I think that this is our job, that this is our goal, that this is our cause, that this is our destiny, our karma, whatever you want to call it. Stirner would disagree. Stirner would say, think about what you want and act accordingly. Do not try to appeal a group or to create a group or to improve the world. There is no cause that is greater than you. There is just you. So I think the whole idea is quite interesting because it is so radical and in an interesting way nihilistic that, well, it was worth a shot to talk about that. So tell me what you think about it in the comment section, like, share and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.